welcome to Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin, and this is a show where you can have your property-related questions answered by our team of property experts. And joining me after a break of the summer, Hayley Andrews, co-founder of Your Freedom Empire. Welcome to you, Hayley.
Thank you.
To have you back.
Good to be back.
Good. And joining Hayley is Jamie Pritchard, Director of Sales for Glenhawk, short-term property finance providers. Welcome.
Hi, Stephen.
Okay, jolly good. Well, we'll get straight on with the questioning. And Hayley, you're going to go first. Do the panel think that the government's levelling up policy is beginning to work, i.e. are rental returns and levels of investment growing in the Midlands and north of England? What do you think?
So this is an opinion, isn't it?
So.
Okay, so I think it's really difficult to measure how successful the Levelling Up Fund has been at this moment in time. If you're talking about, rental inflation and of course house prices as well, that's happened across the whole of the UK, and I'm not sure in some of the areas that you were mentioning that it's actually down to levelling up. Levelling up is not just about infrastructure or house prices or rental increases. It's about the local people, it's about opportunity, it's about investment, and a whole load of other things as well, employment, crime, etc. And I think actually, if you look at levelling up statistics, the Midlands and also the east of England are actually falling massively behind. But North and Northern Ireland is actually levelling up, and we're seeing improvement.
But do you know, I always found a sort of fundamental difficulty with these arguments and comparisons. Look, we're in the capital city now, so obviously things are going to be more expensive here because more and more people want to come and live in London because that's where the business is, that's where the majority of work is. So it's obviously going to be more expensive than, say, where I come from in Leicestershire or whatever.
But if you look at the worst performing areas and you focus on those, only 10% of them have actually seen any improvement from the Levelling Up Fund. And the number of actually towns or the worst that were in need of levelling up actually have seen no change or have actually gone in reverse. So interestingly enough, I actually looked at an article the other day on this, and it actually said that the 5 top performing areas in the UK saw the most funds from the Levelling Up available funds, which is kind of, it's almost unrealistic, isn't it? So if you look at the price per head, so the cost, the amount of funding per head, some of the most affluent areas in the UK saw 3, 4, 5 times more than those areas that needed it most, which is not what the fund was all about. So has it worked? In my opinion, I don't think so. If you look in isolation at Midlands, of course, from an infrastructure point of view, you've got HS2, you've got the integrated rail line, you've got improvements and investment in the roads. But that's all coming. That's not here yet. So do I think that the success of the Midlands is down to the levelling up? No. Not in my opinion.
I just don't think the government has the kind of money that one would need to really influence these things. I mean, it's like if you say take Sheffield. Why was Sheffield successful? Because of the steel industry. Exactly. Now, if the steel industry goes, then to put the money in to replace that kind of huge industry that it was, they wouldn't be able to afford it.
No, I also don't think that the money is well spent either. I think a lot of it is wasted, and I think if you gave the same pot of money to private investment or private investors, they would make it go a hell of a lot further. Because of the archaic internal systems and the processes, they're keeping people in employment, but they're not creating it.
No. And bad planning as well.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like this high street thing. It's all right, you can throw money at a high street to try and make it work. But actually, if you put the right shops on a high street with the right mix, they work. Yeah. If you put bad shops on that nobody wants or nobody cares about, it's not going to work. It's as simple as that.
The bad shop then attracts another bad shop, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and you're in a downward spiral.
And you end up with a whole load of kind of charity shops or fast food.
Pop-up shops, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
They try to do a bit with that, haven't they, with their sort of permitted developments instead of planning and trying to inspire people to be able to, developers to build above shops and move into the storage space that. But is it too little too late? And they just trying to mask over that they've not done their 300,000 target of new homes each year
So
on
they're
year.
talking about putting residential on high streets and things and creating this lovely community mix. Well, it actually doesn't work, because the moment somebody wants to garage their car, they can't do it.
It works to some extent, but there's a balance, isn't there? And there's got to be something driving the footfall there in the first place, which would be desirable for people to actually want to be there. I'm not convinced.
From a funding point of view, are you finding any particular areas are getting very strong or outperforming themselves?
Yeah, I was actually only looking because as a bridging lender, you would think that the majority of it is in London and South East, and a lot of it is because guess what? There's more houses, more heads. But you can lend up in Scotland as well. The areas that I'm seeing that are attracting the investors are Hull and Humberside. Really? That's one of the areas. I know you're saying about the east of the country, but I am seeing the northwest, so sort of the Manchesters and Liverpools, and the yields are good there as well. But
Northeast as well has performed very well, and Northern Ireland. From a levelling up point of view.
Definitely.
And further investment. Investment actually attracts further investment. So any money that's been spent on an area is great. However, it's got to be spent correctly, otherwise it will be very short-lived.
Northern Ireland's doing well and it hasn't got a government.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe we should take tips from there.
It could be the solution. But Northern Ireland as well, just for the investors thinking, let's go into Northern Ireland now, need to be then knowing that there's not as many specialist lenders, there's not as many lenders that have got the ability to lend on properties over in Northern Ireland as well. So that needs to be taken into consideration for anyone that's running for those properties now. Are
there more options available for Scotland now as well?
Yes, lots more options now.
Because maybe 10 years ago you were limited to a few lenders really, weren't you, for your exit? I know bridging is always available.
No, but I've worked for other specialist lenders on long-term and buy-to-let before, and I think it's just lenders understanding that market and seeing the opportunity, because it's a totally different buying process and legal process, as we know. So yes, there is a lot more opportunity. There was a cutting off by some lenders of not doing certain areas, say Aberdeen, because of fear about the sort of oil prices and oil.
But just on that kind of subject, I mean, you can see that in London, it's about surety, isn't it? If you buy a property in London, there's always going to be somebody come along and buy it, whether it's too high in price, too low in price, or not so good, or better than others. So it's going to go at some point in London. When you move out into other towns, and perhaps the further north you go, the more difficult it gets. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, the government and the regulators made actually, buy-to-lets harder to obtain, and also because of what you have with how you're getting taxed more now as an investor, that the warning was a few years ago when you're looking at the background portfolio that rents will naturally have to increase because of that. So I don't think it's levelling up as well. I think it's just a natural progression of what's happening. Less landlords, it's become a lot more professionalised, which is good in some respects. But buying within different structures of ownership, that is all, and we haven't mentioned cost of living, pushing up rental prices.
Everything has gone up, it's not.
Okay, well on that happy thought, Jamie, we'll move on to your question.
You can hire me out for motivational speeches later.
Do lenders prefer loan applications to come to them directly from the borrower, or is it more favourable for a borrower to submit an application through a broker? And if so, what are likely to be the cost consequences?
Yeah, so this will sound like I'm going to have splinters in a moment in an area, because it's both. Some lenders won't even accept you to come direct, so you haven't even got that option. So some lenders will say they're intimated only, so intermediary, i.e. a broker, needs to do the application. Lots of lenders will do both. I think it comes down to the experience of the actual borrower themselves, because the one thing that we can't get back is time. So if you're there and thinking, I'm going to go and see the 200 lenders that are out there and go and speak to all of them, you're not. And you may not be, thinking about who's the best lender to go with then. A broker will be able to actually do, a good broker will be able to do a fact find on you, understand your circumstances, understand what you're actually wanting to do. Is it buy to sell, buy to rent? What is it you're looking to do? And then be able to place you with the right lender and save you time. Cost-wise, that may be that the broker may charge a fee, invariably will, for the services. But if I take my car into a garage, I usually pay a fee for doing that as well. But you're paying for their expertise and being able to place that case right first time. So there may be other fees. I would say to customers, negotiate. Okay. Just like they would on the sales price, negotiate with the brokers as well.
Does a broker take a fee from both sides, from the lender and from the borrower?
Great question, Stephen. Yeah, so yes, do.
But it has to be transparent now.
No, it's all transparent. We've got the consumer duty coming in where it's going to be even more transparent, which is basically treating customers fairly on steroids. That's the best way I can think of doing it. But it's actually all there, and like it should be, line there so it's transparent for the consumer and they know what they're getting. So yes, there will be what's called a procuration fee that's paid to them. They may share, the lender may take some of that as well, just to obviously make profit themselves and make the deal right, and try and keep the rates down in a rate rising environment. But there generally will be a fee. Remember, the procuration fee is only obtained and earned by the broker if the deal completes.
Yeah.
So sometimes that fee is put there as a commitment as well.
Just very quickly in 30 seconds, do you think that lenders should declare an interest if they have an interest in any valuer that's appointed?
We as lenders should show that there's a panel that you will use, and that panel manager or managers, so you can have various panels. You shouldn't have an interest, you shouldn't be able to influence. The same way.
But what if it's an in-house valuer?
Well, if it's an in-house valuer, I believe that they should be saying that it's an in-house valuer. So we know there are lenders who do have in-house valuers.
Because
so that's transparency.
Because that valuer is not going to work on Red Book statistics and guidance. He's going to work on the vagrancies of the lender's views at that particular time.
I'm sensing you're not on the fence when it comes to valuers, Stephen, but I think they do have to follow Rick's guidelines. So I'll hold that part to them. And I'm not saying that, I'm always the biggest fan, but...
Do you know what? I just wish they all would, but Hayley's agreeing with me. She's probably
you get good and bad.
You do get good and bad.
Yeah, and if you're used to working with, your broker and a specific lender, you get used to those people that are coming out as well. It normally goes out and I will ping a call across to my surveyor to say, no, you're on the panel, it's just that it'll be going out, pick it up type of thing. So they're normally 3, isn't there, on a panel? Yeah. And if you're not happy with the first one, you can...
Try again.
Yeah, and I've actually refused valuers before and said, no, I don't want these valuing the property because, and they have given me a choice of another one.
Okay. Lovely, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show, so join me again after the break when we'll be asking Jamie and Hayley more of your questions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time with Hayley Andrews and Jamie Pritchard. Welcome back to you both. So Hayley, your second question. I'm thinking of expanding my rental portfolio outside of London. It had occurred to me to track the path of HS2, which should revitalise certain areas, or is it the experts' view that the completion of this project is too far away to make any difference to investments whatsoever, and that's in the short to medium term?
I mean, as a professional investor, we don't invest on hope value. So while we'll look at infrastructure plans and things like that, we can't guarantee what the capital appreciation will be. And we wouldn't guess either. So the project for HS2 is far too much in the future to be investing today for hope value, in my opinion. So you always need to make sure, it's penciled in now, I believe, to be completed between 29 and 33. So if you're buying today with kind of hope that the appreciation will go up year on year until that happens and you're investing for that hope value, then you could be stung. Well, you most definitely will. So I think the best thing to do is always look at the investment, what it means to you today, check out the supply, check out the demand, lending capability, all things like that. The investment has to work for you today. And if you get that capital appreciation as a result of these, infrastructure plans such as HS2, fantastic, but you don't rely on it.
Well, my experience in London is really just that. I know when I came to London sort of probably 30 odd years ago, I worked down at Tower Bridge on Butler's Wharf down there, did an amazing development with Sir Terence Conran down there. But it took 20 years for that area to really pick up. And it was only the introduction of the mayor's office at the time that really made it work, because it brought genuine employment to that particular area. But of course, they've moved off elsewhere now, I think. And again, when I came to London that time ago, everybody was saying to me, oh, commercial roads, the hottest thing, it's going to be the buzz area. Well, I'm still waiting. I still don't like getting out of my car after dark down there, you know. It just takes time, I'm afraid.
All of these things do take time, not only for the completion of the project but also for them people to kind of attract to the area as a result of this additional kind of.
And again, I'm just looking at Jamie. I'd imagine that hope is not a word you want to hear,
no.
is it? Really?
No, it's not the plan, especially in short-term funding. So, I'm looking at 24 months. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
2029.
He doesn't even care about HS2.
No, what is my exit? My exit better not say HS2. I'm not seeing any investors mentioning HS2 as a reason that they're looking to
I think
invest
in London, a number of people have tried to track the Crossrail, but they've even come unstuck with that because, well, I don't know how many years behind we are on that. But,
I mean, as I said, if you're looking at the areas, you're looking at these infrastructure plans, you want those things to be happening within the areas that you're choosing to invest. But you just want to have a look at what's going on today, what is the value today, how much can you force the appreciation yourself, and what's the rental return or resale value.
And it's not rocket science, is it? If you're worried about crime figures, you can look on the internet and get it. You can walk down your local high street where you're looking at investing, and if the shops are buzzing, then that gives you a clue, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Looking at what shops are there as well, employment, who are the largest employers in the area, what's the average wage, what's the average household income, what's the planning success rate, everything. We look at absolutely everything.
Lots can change, can't it? Because guess what? COVID's just happened and people are now working differently, living differently in those ways. So that's actually opened up different commuter areas where they may not be coming into London every day of the week and they don't need to. So they can actually accept a longer commute on trains or anything else that they
and the 4-day week being trialled in some areas of the UK as well. Is it being trialled here? Or?
I think there are one or two of the big firms that are in the city have tried that, but I think even here at Property TV we found it when COVID was there. Okay, you can survive, you can get through, but you do miss the office interaction.
Yeah.
You do miss simple things like just going downstairs for a coffee or something. You miss the buzz of ideas between different people. You never get that on the phone properly or on a Zoom call.
I don't think that you get the same productivity at home as you do in the office. I most certainly don't. And I even through COVID, went into my office.
To work at home successfully, you've got to be so disciplined, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, difficult times, but I've no doubt we'll all come through and we'll all get it right in the end. Right, Jamie, I have identified a property that I wish to purchase. However, my usual lenders are unwilling to confirm an even in-principle funding, and time before the auction is running out. Can the panel tell me if there are lenders that would provide short-term funding that would allow me to complete the purchase and give me enough time to secure long-term funding post the auction?
It's almost like you planned that question for me, isn't it, Stephen? And short-term funders.
we try and choose them carefully.
I would say yes. There's bridging lenders that is just perfect fit for auctions, because if you're trying to use a long-term lender to try and secure your auction purchase, they've got long turnaround times at the moment, and you're going to put that 10% deposit at risk. I wouldn't. So bridging finance is tailored to fit those needs for the 28 days. There's other things that can happen. We can do joint representation, title indemnity. All these processes are put in place to shorten the time to your ability to lend and take away the stress and your ability to buy those properties. So short-term finance and lenders in bridging can do that, but that's exactly what
where it kind of originated from.
It's exactly
where you walk into auction and there'd be, bridging company handing out their cards. That's kind of quick cash, isn't it?
I would say
expensive,
if they're not given,
but quick.
No, but it's expensive if it's expensive because it's short-term finance. But if it's a business cost, so you've done all your homework, you've done all your due diligence, then it's a business cost. If I'm buying something and I'm doing a refurb on it and I'm spending more than it's going to make me,
then
I don't do that deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
In the same way that I can buy something, but then I can do at the auction, and I want 100% of the cost for refurbishment. Well, you're not going to get that from a traditional lender. A bridging lender will allow you to do that. So that's exactly what it's set up for.
Much more flexible, much quicker drawdown of funds. I use bridging all the time.
Yeah.
And many people have said to me, well, why? Because it's an expensive form of lending, but it allows you the flexibility, it solves the problem, and then I am exiting with a longer term lender.
Definitely.
And I presume too that if you've secured bridging finance for a purchase, say at auction, then when you do go for your long-term finance, the lenders will be more impressed that you've already secured funding on it, even albeit short-term. I mean, it shows at least that you're credit-worthy in the prospect of the deal work.
One aspect, I think, being impressed, they still need to meet their own credit profile and their rules, and that's where maybe a broker will come in and shape you to the right place. But
and a bridging will pretty much lend on anything, won't
they've had those lenders who will, but what we will do, and good lenders will do, is make sure that we reverse engineer it anyway. So we make sure that you can exit that finance before we even give you that finance, and that's why good lenders have low default rates, because they're doing a lot of due diligence on their customers and making sure that you can exit, and generally contingent exits as well. So if that one doesn't, sale is my exit, is there anything else that you can do? Can you afford it? If it's a refinance, plan B. Plan B. So
you mentioned insurance, title insurance, for instance. Does that take time to put in place? I know lenders like to see various things insured, but how fussy are the insurance companies about?
Well, we've done all that due diligence with the companies and making sure that we're using the right ones first of all, and we'll have a word with our lawyers and when that's all set up. So the bits that you wouldn't have seen took a long time. The actual process of a customer using it, an investor, that's there to speed up and also be more cost effective. So you're not paying for all the searches. And we talked about sort of, governments and different departments at the moment. There's a lot of stress in those departments where they haven't got enough people. And whether it's the searches and all that, if we can take away that pain and quicken it up and make it more cost effective for the customers, win-win. So,
well, just for the last minute or so, I'm going to ask both of you. We've now got a new government. We've got yet another housing minister who may or may not know anything about housing. What do we think of the prospects of government interference in the market? And I mean, I'm just thinking in particular that Scotland's just announced a rent freeze and a restriction on evicting people at winter time. Are all these restrictions actually going to be that helpful?
I don't think that they will. I think that it's just going to add more fuel to the fire, and actually more landlords exit the market as a result. And as
which will put up rents,
which will increase rent. I mean, the reason, rents have only increased 14.3% since 2015. If you look at inflation, the cost of living, house price inflation, along with everything else, fuel, food, absolutely everything, it's nowhere near in line. So I think it's just a distraction to kind of make it look like they're helping when they're actually not. And in actual fact, the reason house rental prices have increased at the rate that they have, which is higher than they have over the last 7 years, this year, is because of all of the restrictions that government have put in place and the sheer just backlash for private rental sector.
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting tired of it.
I'm getting tired of it. They pulled so many levers towards the landlords, and not everyone wants to or has the ability to own a property. So we're talking about cost of living, and we need deposit. Well, Help to Buy is just ending. So where's that for help for the new builds? They may want to concentrate on some of those schemes rather than kicking the landlords who are there really helping the market. Rental freezes will not help.
They're making moves without looking at the long-term effects. Correct. And that is why we're where we are today.
But that's the problem with having so many housing ministers. How can you have a long-term plan if you're only in office for what? Less than a year?
Well, I was going to say the average tenure now is about 11 months.
14 now in the last 10?
13 in the last 10.
Yeah.
And 21 since 97, I think it is. Oh, it's crazy. But you see, I think it's for some reason considered one of those posts that you either get on the way up or on the way down.
It's so important. It's so important. It's almost, it's cross-party that should, because it's a 40-year plan, in my opinion.
Okay, well, there we are. That's all we've got time for. So, Hayley Andrews and Jamie Pritchard, thank you very much indeed for your contributions today. Great show. Join me again next time on Property Question Time, where we'll be asking more of your questions. I'm Stephen Galpin. Look forward to seeing you then.